Okay, boys and girls, today we're going to be doing some reading comprehension. Remember, reading comprehension is when we read something and we try to understand why we're reading it. Do you remember I told you that good readers don't just know how to read, but they also understand what they're reading? So that's what we're going to practice today. Are you ready? Get that brain warmed up. So today you're going to need to find your reading comprehension packet. This one is inside of your supply baggie from this month. Okay, we're going to turn it over. You're going to go through a couple of pages. You're going to turn the pages. Turn. You're going to go through quite a few pages, my friends. You're going to turn. Keep turning, and you're gonna keep going until you get to a page that looks like this. It looks like this. It has two boxes. It says problem and solution up here. It starts with a P. Okay. Find this page for me. Okay, if you need to pause the video to find this page, pause the video and then come back to me, okay? Okay, today we're going to be talking about problem and solution. Sometimes when people write books, one way to make the book interesting for us to read is by including a problem and a solution in their story. A problem is something that goes wrong or something that's hard for the character, and then the solution is how it's solved. What do they do to fix it? So the problem is what's wrong, the solution is how they fix it. Okay, say that with me. Problem is what is wrong. Solution is how they fix it or how it's solved. Okay, today we're going to be reading a story called Whistle for Willie. Now, in this story, our character has a problem. There's something he's having a hard time with. So as we read, I want you to think about what is the problem that our character has or that is facing, and how does he solve it? What does he do to fix his problem? Okay, just from looking at the title, what do you think the story is going to be about? Well, I see a dog and I see a boy. He's trying to whistle. The name of the book is Whistle for Willie. So I think the story is going to be about somebody named Willie and trying to whistle. So now I'm just wondering which one of these two is going to be Willie and who's trying to whistle. This book is written by Ezra Jack Keats. So remember, as we're reading the book, try to think about what's the problem that the character has in the story. Here we go. Oh, how Peter wished he could whistle. So who's Peter? So then I know now that this character, his name is Peter. And what does Peter want to do? He wants to whistle. Oh my goodness, we already have so much information just in the first page. I know that this character's name is Peter, and he wishes he could whistle. How many of you know how to whistle? He saw a boy playing with his dog. Whenever the boy whistled, the dog ran straight to him. Peter tried and tried to whistle, but he couldn't. So instead, he began to turn himself around, and around. He whirled faster and faster. Oh my goodness, I already know more information. There's a boy named Peter, and he has a problem. What's his problem? What's Peter having a hard time with? When he stopped, everything turned down and up and down, and around and around. Whoa, have you ever done that? When you spin so much and you stop spinning and everything feels like it's still moving. Peter saw his dog, Willie, coming. Quick as a wink, he hid in an empty carton lying on the sidewalk. Wouldn't it be funny if I whistled? Peter thought. Willie would stop and look all around to see who it was. Peter tried again to whistle, but still he couldn't, so Willie just walked on. Okay, we just learned the name of another character in the story. We know this is Peter. What's his name? Willie. And what does Peter want to do? I think Peter's trying to be a trickster. All right, let's see what happens. Peter got out of the carton and started home. On the way, he took some colored chalks out of his pocket and drew a long, long line right up to his door. He stood there and tried to whistle again. He blew till his cheeks were tired, but nothing happened. Uh-oh. What's happening? What's his problem? What's Peter having a hard time with? He went into his house and put on his father's old hat to make himself feel more grown up. He looked into the mirror to practice whistling. Still no whistle. Uh-oh, have you ever had a problem like that? Where you're trying to do something but it just won't work? When his mother saw what he was doing, Peter pretended that he was his father. He said, "I've come home early today, dear. Is Peter here?" His mother answered, "Why, no, he's outside with Willie." "Well, I'll go out and look for them," said Peter. First, he walked along a crack in the sidewalk. Then he tried to run away from the shadow. He jumped off his shadow, but when he landed, they were together again. He came to the corner where the carton was, and who should he see but Willie? Peter scrambled. Scrambled means he hurried. Peter scrambled under the carton. He blew and blew and blew. Suddenly, out came a real whistle. Willie stopped and looked around to see who it was. Look at Willie. He's like, where did that come from? "It's me," Peter shouted and stood up. Willie raced straight to him. Peter ran home to show his father and mother what he could do. They loved Peter's whistling. So did Willie. Peter's mother asked him and Willie to go on an errand to the grocery store. He whistled all the way there, and he whistled all the way home. The end. Okay, so now let's talk about the story. What problem was important in this story? Okay, so first on our page, we're going to write the title of the book or the story that we read. Our story is called Whistle for Willie. Whistle. This is one of the combinations that we learned. When the WH is together, it just sounds like wh, wh. Whistle for Willie. Now remember, we need to capitalize the first letters because it's a title. Whistle for Willie is the title of our book. All right. Were you guys able to figure out what the problem was? Who was having a problem in the story? Was it Peter or was it Willie? If we don't remember who the characters are, we can go back. It says, "Oh, how Peter wished he could whistle." We can always go back to our book and reread it. So we know that this is Peter, and Willie is the dog. So who was having a problem, Peter or Willie? Peter was having a hard time doing what? He wanted to whistle, but he couldn't. He couldn't and he couldn't. So in our story, Peter has a problem. Peter, we're going to start our sentence with a capital P. If you already started your sentence and you're going to write it your own way, that's A-okay. If you haven't started it yet, then go ahead and write it with me. Peter, what's his problem? Peter can't. Oh, remember we learned this is an apostrophe. So when we put two words together, instead of saying cannot, we shorten it to say can't. Peter can't whistle. Whistle. Peter can't whistle. I couldn't whistle for the longest time either. It was hard for me. So Peter can't whistle. What's the solution? How does Peter solve his problem? How does Peter solve his problem? Does Peter magically know how to whistle all of a sudden? Does Peter think, I wish I can whistle, and boom, a genie grants him a wish to whistle? No, he can't whistle. So what does he do to solve that problem? What is his solution? The solution to his problem means, how does he fix it? So if I look back at my story, I see that Peter tries to practice whistling a couple of times. Let's see. It says, he looked into the mirror to practice whistling. Still no whistle. Then it says, he blew and he blew. So he kept practicing trying to whistle until he got good at it, until he was able to do it. So in our story, one solution, Peter can't whistle is the problem, and our solution is that he practices. He has to do something. He practices, because we know that when you practice something, you get better at it. He practices until he can whistle. So he solves this by practicing. He doesn't magically know how to whistle. He has to practice. So in our story, our problem is that Peter can't whistle, but the solution is that he practices until he can whistle. Does that make sense? So sometimes in stories, our characters have a problem, but then there's also a solution to the problem. There's something that's wrong, and then there's some way to fix it. The last thing you're going to do is draw your picture here, and then you'll be done with this, okay? Good work.